My name is Paul White. I'm a producer and artist from South East London. Today you're in my bedroom studio. I haven't had a bedroom studio for many years, but with the coronavirus going on, can't go to my music studio in Deptford. So yeah, welcome to my bedroom studio.
19s, but I keep it cleaned out. Let the inside dark tinted window. Wood grain wheel, tell me how you really feel. Ride past all the kids yelling out bingo. Talk a good game, trade wingo. Speaking code so nobody know the lingo. Like a dice game, ain't no casino. Street like Contra, ain't no cheat code. Every day on the line like a free throw. Shit weak like the knees on D-Rose. I was taught, look out for your people. Me heaven and you gotta know evil. Heart of a lion, eye of an ego. Life a movie but ain't no sequel. Switch lanes in that new thing. Got at it red line while I'm playing like a seagulls. So no way we could ever be equal. In that haystack I was that needle. Hold it in thinking no one will believe you. Lose it all in a second like me too. The whole world is seafood. Gunshots echo, never be peaceful. Smoking diesel to forget it all.
So in 2018 in April I got to go to New York to work with a band or a group called Standing on the Corner. The trip was set up by a guy called Steven at Warp Records, which was awesome. He thought that me and Standing on the Corner could potentially work well together to create some music for Danny Brown's new record that he was working on for Warp, which was the last album called You Know What I'm Saying. Steven said, what do you need, you know, what's the best way for you guys to create together? So I just said, I'd just love to have like a room full of instruments, you know, can we just get as many instruments as we can in one room and we'll jam, we'll just record loads of material and kind of treat it like sampling, you know, like then I'll almost like make records and then I can come home with all this material and sample it and chop it up. So I got to go over there for 3 days, we did 3 days in the studio and yeah, I came back with a ton of stuff and that's how Shine ended up coming into being, was me basically sampling some of that material. For me, like sampling old records was always like, you're sampling a feeling. It always feels like quite privileged then to kind of, you know, take someone else's feeling and then mixing it with your own, which is collaboration, right? I mean, in that way, sampling is the same as writing something with someone in a room in a kind of weird kind of sense. So the way that I kind of sample within Pro Tools is pretty much just chopping up audio. I don't use any kind of like instrument. I'm not mapping the sample out onto a keyboard or anything. I'm pretty much literally acting as if this was a record. I had a turntable here, I was recording a whole song straight into my computer and I'm just finding one little piece on one audio track and just chopping it, and that's my sample. It's just like a piece of audio on a single track. So as I just explained, chopping that block, it's like modular synth. This is my first track one and that's it. My sample is just now this piece of audio that if I want I could stretch out, I could pitch it up and down, I can reverse it, I can do whatever I want with it. It fits, everyone's got a different way of working. Me working within Pro Tools for so long, for some reason at university they taught Pro Tools, so it's just the software that I got used to working with, and I'd never really used any software synthesizers. It's only been like in the last year or something I've actually started using like soft synths. It was always hardware, always, you know, forever. So I'm very used to just recording audio into Pro Tools. I find it really easy to do simple shortcuts, like there's a peak finder, you know, like if I record like a drum break or something into Pro Tools, by hitting tab I can find like the loudest part. So like you can see this is like a bass part here. If I put the cursor down and then hit tab, it's just gonna jump to the loudest points. So simple things like that. So it's like, imagine this was drums. I wanted to chop up a break and I wasn't using a grid or anything. I can find, imagine that's the, oh look, here's some cymbals. This is exactly what I did with these cymbals. So yeah, I just found, you can just jump between peaks. So I can find there's one loudest bit there. I can just hit Apple E, cut instantly. So I can like, 2, 3, 4, and there's another one. I could just again like hover it close by, hit tab, it finds the loudest bit, Apple E, chopped, and there you go. Like there's a sample. There's like a 1 bar loop that just goes around perfectly. So I just got very used to doing that. So for me, this way of working like really benefited the way that I write music anyway. You know, I felt really comfortable with just loads of music and just chopping bits up and making my own little samples. It's quite interesting though. I mean, I hadn't looked at this for a while, but it's funny to see like how we first, like the first sounds that came out of the modular synth. It's like random stuff, like. I don't even know if that was a modular, you know? I mean, I think that was maybe him playing something. There we go. And then I've gone through and like chopped up little bits. This was obviously something that I thought was good. Also to say as well, I've processed the sound quite a bit. So the original sound was that. It's now a lot quieter. So I put it through like an amp simulator to just make it more filthy. Put it through a little bit of reverb. This is all UAD's beautiful plugins. And then put it through a distressor compressor. Just give it some grit and a bit of dirt. And then yeah, I'd obviously just try to find little pieces that I could just loop up, because I mean I've done that so much throughout the years of sampling, just taking a very short loop, and I mean that's quite nice. But obviously wasn't satisfied yet. Some pretty stuff. I've obviously looped this up for some reason. Okay, and then for some reason there's 8 minutes of just this, which is obviously really important. It's kind of forming. You can start to hear a little bit of the sound now of like Shine. Okay, well, we've gone from 1 oscillator to 2 oscillators. There's a harmony now. Okay, I'll loop this up for some reason. Oh yeah, this is super pretty. I think I ended up trying to use this little part actually in Shine, because initially I tried to take loads of different pieces and the idea was to put them all into one beat. For some reason the final beat ended up just being like one piece. So as you can see, I've looped up various little tiny bits, but to show you where the actual loop for Shine came from was here. You can kind of hear it. It's about to be born. And that was it. So I tried to find like a beginning and an end point. I mean, the good thing, I never, for years and years, I never ever used grid or any kind of like BPM. So I got very used to, because I started using an MPC like really super early on, and I'd often like turn off all the metronome, not focus on the BPM, and you had like a tap tempo that you could tap into the MPC that would, you know, determine the BPM within the machine. So I just have an idea in my head, tap it out, not turn the metronome on or anything, and then just play and hope that by the end of the 4th bar it would loop round to the 1st bar, if that makes any sense. Because you get like a killer groove, and you wouldn't, because you got to like, you're just using your internal clock. That's the beginning of Shine, basically. All started off with just that. And I didn't find out what BPM that was or anything, because in Pro Tools I've been so used to just working with no BPM, as I said. I mean, that's your grid, right? You know, I don't need to have a, you know, an on-screen grid that's going to show me lines, you know. It's like, that's my lines, just that side and that side. What I've really been trying to do the last kind of few years now, I mean, since kind of 2 solo albums ago, especially my last record, which was just really get back into like playing loads of live instruments again. Like my last solo record, Rejuvenate, I played everything myself and just had fun, tried to be like a one-man band and just explore and try and grow and just like give myself more creative challenges, because I think you've always got to keep pushing yourself and explore new creative pathways. I definitely wanted to involve that in this song. I didn't just want it to be just about sampling. I mean, it's a challenge, you know, not to use any other kind of samples, you know. I mean, I come from a very like heavily sampled background, but now the challenge is just not to sample at all. Apart from it's kind of like your own, you know, not really kind of sampling other people's music as much. So I kind of had this one part of the sample now for this song. So I was like, okay, I definitely just want to like play everything else myself. I just played the loop round and round and just like explore different parts. Picked up the bass for a while, picked up the guitar, started playing some synths on it. So that's the sample. And this was like the beginning of me like adding extra harmonies and stuff on top. Which is basically a couple of synthesizers. And then I suppose I was thinking, obviously I knew that this was going to be for Danny, so obviously I'll structure music in a very different way depending on what it's being used for. So for Danny, I always at the beginning just give him like rough, like intro, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, and add little kind of bits of growth along the way, but still leaving it pretty open for him to put his part in it, in his world. And then I'll only go back in and really, really kind of finish stuff after I hear what he's talked about, you know, so he's giving his kind of context. I use Machine in Pro Tools, where I have lots of just like drum hits, so there's some machine drums going on here. Again, like distorted to hell, just like, I mean, it's a big difference without, that just sounds so boring and so rubbish. So just drive the shit out of it, put it through some delay and echo. Then another compressor. So I got this together as like a rough structure, sent it over to Danny, and then Danny sent me back a Pro Tools file, a whole Pro Tools file he started to send me nowadays, where he'll send like the bounce of the beat just as one file, and then he'll send me the Pro Tools session he's recorded in, so I'll have his like separate vocals and just kind of like some like rough EQ and compression that he's put on, or him and his engineer. And then what I did was I'll take his acapellas and then take the acapellas out and then put it back into my session, so I've got all the separate parts. And as I said, and then start building on top of that. So it felt like a really good challenge of like still, you know, doing stuff I usually do with sampling, but then all the old school me, it kind of felt like a bit of like the old me and the new me, and getting to play instruments on top and just create something so different. I feel like super lucky to get to work with someone like Danny, who's just so open-minded, and I can do whatever I want. There's nobody telling me to do anything. Like, we just have total trust in one another. He'll just let me do whatever I want. So as I've kind of gone on and worked with other people, I realise I'm like super lucky to have that relationship with him, because not every artist gets that total freedom. This has been a really integral part to my creativity as well, being indoors with this window. Just getting to see lots of people walk past. How the coronavirus has affected my music making. I think one of the biggest things has meant that I've gone back to not doing as many sessions with people, not being able to get in a studio and co-write together with people, and go back to more just writing beats, which is what I always used to do anyway. I mean, like coming up through the hip hop world, I was just always writing beat tapes every month anyway and sending them out to people. So it kind of feels like things have gone back to that, which has actually been really cool. I've actually really enjoyed just having a humble little home studio, bedroom set up again, instead of like going to my studio, which I love, but I definitely feel like it's brought like a new energy and some kind of new creative inspiration. Just kind of like going back to basics, nothing fancy, just like limitations. And then just getting into contact with people on social medias, obviously having like a team helping me out is amazing. And yeah, you know, trying to connect to people that way and sending out music and trying to start collaborations online, which is funny enough. I mean, we're talking about the song Shine today. That's how me and Danny Brown have always worked anyway. And we've always sent stuff remotely. We've got in the studio once together. That was for Atrocity exhibition where we recorded like some vocals for some songs, but all the work has been done remotely. So yeah, it's been interesting kind of like going back to purely that and no sessions.
One strike, take it out. Hey, all it take one call. Pray you lose it all 1 second, all gone. Hey, know you're feeling all alone, but who can you turn to when things gone wrong? Hey, it's It's the plot all along, push it down the wrong path. The statistics have shown.